Be still, my soul, the Lord is on thy side. Bear patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God to order and provide. In every change, ye faithful will remain. Be still, my soul, thy best, thy heavenly friend. Through thorny ways leads to a joyful end. Be still, my soul, thy God doth undertake to guide the future as he has the past. Thy hope, thy confidence, let nothing shake. All now mysterious shall be bright at last. Be still, my soul, the waves and winds to know his voice who ruled them while he dwelt below. Be still, my soul, the hour is hastening on, when we shall be forever with the Lord. When disappointment, grief, and fear are gone, sorrow forgot, love's purest joys restore. Be still, my soul, when change and tears are past. All safe and blessed we shall meet at last. Blessed are all those whose way is blameless, those who love his law and keep his word. Blessed are all those who keep his judgments. Blessed are all those who seek the Lord. Oh, that my ways were steadfast and faithful, keeping your statutes holy and true. Then I would praise with heart that is blameless. My eyes are fixed, O Lord, upon you. Then I will praise with heart that is upright, when I have learned your righteous decrees, and I will keep your statutes and judgments. Do not forsake, but vindicate me. Blessed are all those whose way is blameless, those who love his law and keep his word. Blessed are all those who keep his judgments. Blessed are all those who who seek the Lord. How can the young be free from transgression? How can a person keep his way sure? Let me not wander from your commandments. Hide them within, that I may be pure. Praise be to God, my lips shall declare it. For your instructions guide me aright. I meditate on all of your precepts, and in your words of truth I will delight. Blessed are all those whose way is blameless, those who love his law and keep his word. Blessed are all those who keep his judgments. Blessed are all those who seek the Lord.
Humble yourself in the sight of 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 the Lord.
And he will lift you up. And he will lift you up. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound
That saved a wretch like me. That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
I once was lost, but now I'm found.
I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years.
10,000 years.
When we've been there 10,000 years.
10,000 years.
Bright shining as the sun. Shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise.
We've no less days to sing God's praise.
We've no less days to sing God's praise.
To sing God's praise
Than when we first begun. Than when we first begun. So humble yourself in the sight of the Lord.
So humble yourself in the sight of the Lord.
Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord.
Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord.
And he will lift you up. I know, and he will lift you up. And he will lift you up. I know, and he will lift you up.
The Lord is my shepherd, I lack no good thing. He is my refuge and my righteousness. By peaceful waters in pastures of green, He leads me in righteous paths, refreshes my soul. His goodness and faithfulness will follow my life, and I will dwell within His house evermore. And though you may lead me through perilous ways, if through the darkest night you make me go, yet you are with me, so how can I fear? Your rod and your staff sustain and comfort my soul. His goodness and faithfulness will follow my life, and I will dwell within His house evermore. And you have provided a table for me, set in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with thine oil, and crowned me with majesty, my cup overflows. His goodness and faithfulness will follow my life, and I will dwell within His house evermore. His goodness and faithfulness will follow my life, and I will dwell within His house evermore.
Welcome to Granbury Church of Christ. This is the 9 a.m. Sunday morning Bible study. My name is Stan McBroom, and I'll be leading this study today. We have been listening to some beautiful music performed by the Vocal Tapestry Chorus, and that's a project of Psalms by Mark Shipp and his associates. And we've heard some beautiful music by Keith Lancaster, performed by Praise and Harmony. And I hope you see that those hymns have a direct relation to the lesson today. Of course, we're studying the Beatitudes of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5. If you would like to open your Bibles there, we will be reading from Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 7. This beatitude is, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." As a brief review, these beatitudes are kingdom proclamations. Jesus Christ, Yeshua of Nazareth, showed up in Galilee, and He began proclaiming the arrival of the kingdom of heaven. In our last lesson, we studied the beatitude, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Today, let's consider this next beatitude. "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And remember, these beatitudes are building on each other, and the first step was, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Jesus is proclaiming the kingdom of heaven. Once again, as with the other beatitudes we've looked at, this beatitude sounds like a contradiction. It seems to us that only the rich and powerful inherit good things. Meekness sounds negative to us. And I would suggest to you that Jesus' original audience there by the Sea of Galilee may have heard some of the same thing. They thought, how can this be? And we in America, aren't we supposed to be tough and rugged and in-your-face go-getters to get ahead? How can meekness ever win in such a competitive environment? And how could the promise be true that the meek shall inherit the earth? We first see this, I believe, in Psalm 37, and I believe Jesus echoes Psalm 37, a psalm which his hearers knew very well. Excerpts from Psalm 37, beginning in verse 11. Do not fret because of evil men. They will soon wither away, but the meek will inherit the land and enjoy great peace. This is a theme that is developed over and over in Psalm 37, and we'll see that later. This is a story, a psalm that Jesus' hearers knew quite well. We know our stories. I might say to you, if you give a mouse a cookie, to which you would reply, then he will want a glass of milk. And on it goes from there. This is a very familiar childhood story, and we know it well. The Psalms were the story of the Jewish people. So when he was hanging on the cross, Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Those watching his crucifixion would remember all of Psalm 22, because that's the first line of Psalm 22. And they would realize they were watching that story actually unfold before them. The hands and the feet of Jesus pierced. His clothing, the soldiers casting lots for them. His bones protruding. That's such a graphic image. And they knew that. Well, they knew Psalm 37 also. That's the way it was. So when Jesus says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, they knew the story. They remembered Psalm 37. They probably had memorized most of it. We will get deeper into Psalm 37 later in this lesson. As I mentioned to you, these Beatitudes build on one another, and they follow each other. Meekness follows mourning. We read last week, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And we are being comforted by the Lord and by his gentleness. And his gentleness and his calm assurance are being transferred to us as he comforts us. We might think that meekness is weakness, but meekness is not weakness. It is strength under the control of the Master. We trust in him. We wait on him. And we do his will instead of running ahead to do our own will. Jesus was meek, but he was never weak. Jesus is the creator and the sustainer of everything by the power of his word. In 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 1, Paul says, by the meekness and the gentleness of Christ, I appeal to you. Paul refers to Jesus as both meek and gentle. Jesus refers to himself in a similar way in Matthew chapter 11, verses 29 and 30. He says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart." Power, calm and under control. W.E. Vines, in his book, Vines' Complete and Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words, he says, the Lord Jesus was meek because he had the infinite resources of God at his command. Vines says that meekness is related to humility and follows closely after it. Vines says that one cannot be meek without first being humble. Vines says that meekness is not merely an outward behavior or appearance, but primarily it is an inner calm, a tempered spirit toward God, in which we accept God's dealing with us as both good and right. Vines points out that there is no good English word to translate this idea because the notion in English of meekness seems to be weak and timid. But that misses the mark. Moses was meek. In Numbers 12 and verse 3, we read, "Moses was a meek man, more humble than any man on the face of the earth." Now I know your translation may not say meek. At least the King James Version uses meek. Yours may say humble. But Moses was not timid, and he was not weak. This verse talks about a dispute among Miriam, Aaron, and Moses. The Lord himself rebukes Aaron and Miriam and says, "With him," that is Moses, "I speak face to face, clearly, and not in riddles. He sees the form of Yahweh. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" W.E. Vines says that meekness encourages boldness, not timidity, because the power of God comes with it. When we are meek under God's control, we can be bold because we rely on God's power, not our own. That's how it was with Moses. He was meek. He was humble. He relied on God's power, but Moses parted the sea and he spoke the plagues on Pharaoh in Egypt. Paul encourages us to become like Jesus. In Philippians 2, verses 6 through 11, Paul says we are to become like Jesus. Although he is God by his very nature, he emptied himself to become a servant, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing. That is, he emptied himself, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human form, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself. Jesus became humble and meek to serve a purpose, to seek and to save the lost. Jesus calls us to be humble and meek to serve the same purpose, his purpose. What might that purpose look like? How would we follow his steps in this regard? The meek shall inherit the earth. That is the promise to the meek. They shall inherit the earth. Who owns the earth? It is, of course, owned by the Creator himself. We are his children. Children inherit what their parents own. Now, is there a related thread in the Sermon on the Mount? Well, yes. Jesus says that we are to inherit the earth. So he also says, you are the salt of the earth. You're the salt of the earth, and you're going to inherit the earth. Those fit together. Now, further, Jesus says we are to be the light of the world. Also, because we will inherit the world, and we are to reflect his image in this world. That's in Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. God is light. You are the salt of the earth. We need salt in cooking. And what a big difference a little salt makes. When you're making bread, what does it take? 3 or 4 cups of flour to make a loaf of bread, and a cup and a half, 2 cups of water. That may be a little too much, but a teaspoon or 2 of salt and a teaspoon or 2 of yeast. Just a little salt makes a big difference. And salt is also a good preservative. And consider how much darkness is dispelled by even a small light. So we begin to see what it looks like to serve the purpose that Jesus came to serve, and the purpose that Jesus calls us to serve, as Paul said, for us to become like Jesus. Let me remind you of the idea that I have that the Beatitudes build on one another. And once again, let me apologize for leaving a couple of steps out of this on the labels. But I wanted to show that the Beatitudes progress from one to another on solid foundations as we begin at poor in spirit, and we watch the cross, and we watch Jesus at the top. And Jesus draws us up by his power. And there are promises for each one of these Beatitudes. The light of the world. John 8 and verse 12 says, Jesus spoke again to the people. He said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus says he is the light of the world. He also says that we are the light of the world. Jesus also says a lot more when he says, I am, because I am is the name that God gave to Moses when Moses was at the burning bush, and he said, who shall I say sent me? They're going to want to know your name. And God said, I am, because I am. Tell them I am has sent you. Jesus is clearly declaring that he and the Father are one when he says, I am. In John 1, verses 1 through 5, John writes, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Some translations say the darkness has not comprehended it. The darkness has not understood it. And I would say that any of those can be right, but the darkness of this world cannot wrap its mind around the radiant light of the Creator. And it can't stand in the way. It can't stop it. It can't understand it. It can't overcome it. Jesus gives us life. And he gives us light. There was life in Jesus. There was light. That was the light of men. So don't hide the light. The meek follow God's plan, not their own. And the meek wait on the Lord. Well, what other thread might there be in the Sermon on the Mount relating to meekness? In Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 through 42, let's read that. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak also. And whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. Give to him who asked you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. So, this is meekness in that we are not to clamor, to push for our own rights. Trust yourself to the Lord. Do no harm. Do good as Jesus did. And that is another way that we can recognize the fruit of meekness. We see these attributes, these fruits, show up in our lives, and they are produced by the Spirit. And then again, in Matthew 7, verses 15 through 20, let's read that. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits, you will know them. We are to yield to God's agenda and wait for the Spirit to yield His fruit in your life. That's a lot of what Scott Thibodeau said at the end of November in his sermon. A big part of meekness is waiting on the Lord. And that brings us back around to Psalm 37. Humble yourself. First, let's listen and sing with Humble Yourself, performed and recorded by the Praise and Harmony Chorus with Keith Lancaster.
Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord.
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 And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound
That saved a wretch like me. That saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see. When we've been there 10,000 years. 10,000 years. When we've been there 10,000 years. Son. We've no less days to sing God's praise. We've no less days to sing God's praise. We've no less days to sing God's praise. To sing God's praise than when we first begun. Than when we first begun. So humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. So humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord. And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up. And He will lift you up.
That song fits so well with this lesson, and it is performed so beautifully by the praise and harmony singers. We're talking about the meek inheriting the earth. W.E. Vines said that meekness follows humility. Psalm 37 says, trust God's plan. Don't worry about the evil ones. They wither like grass. And as we heard in that song, Humble Yourself, when we do, we are established in the kingdom of heaven. And God lifts us up by His power. And when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Psalm 37 talks about this idea over and over. The first 11 verses of Psalm 37 frame the argument. We read that in the commentary, I believe by John MacArthur. And the rest of the psalm reinforces it, that the wicked pass away. Then the meek inherit the earth. Evil ones wither like grass, but the meek and the righteous endure forever. Psalm 33, verses 3 and 4. Let's read that. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. That is, when we seek the Lord, He puts good desires into our heart. We should not take that to mean that the Lord is some kind of genie in a bottle that will just do whatever we willy-nilly want. God gives us good desires when we seek Him, and then He satisfies those good desires. Psalm 37, verses 8 and 9. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. For evil men will be cut off, but those who trust in the Lord will inherit the land. We hear Jesus saying very similar words. If someone strikes you on the cheek, turn the other also. Don't try to assert your own rights. Trust in the Lord. The Lord will establish you. And I think we should look at this as a battle cry. Jesus overcame evil in part by being meek. Jesus overcame Satan in part by being meek. He is here telling us how to overcome in our battle against evil. Meekness is trusting in God, waiting on God. Meekness is not just depressed resignation under duress. It's a battle cry. And this isn't just saber rattling, but it's dry bones rattling. Chris has been telling us about the valley of the dry bones and that prophecy. One day, on the great and terrible day of the Lord, the bones in the valley of the shadow of death will come together, and the Lord will put sinew and flesh on them and breathe into them the breath of life. The wicked will wither and be no more on the earth. Try to imagine that day. Those dry bones will hear the trumpet of God. They will hear the voice of God Most High. And they will come together in the resurrection. Let's pray we're among them. And they shall inherit the earth, because the wicked will be no more. Remember, this is good news to us. This is not bad news. Psalm 37, verses 28b through 29. The offspring of the wicked will be cut off. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. 10,000 years or more, and we've only just begun. Jesus is not bemoaning the poor meek. This is a call to arms. Seriously, spiritual warfare. Jesus has overcome. He empowers us to overcome. Please excuse me if I'm getting a little preachy in a Bible class. I'm not a preacher, but this is exciting news. And it turns the world up on its head, because this is the kingdom of heaven. Let me remind us again of this tension. Already, but not yet. We read through Psalm 37 that we should trust in the Lord, and He will establish us in the land. And we have received great promises from the Lord. The Lord has done great things, but we still see that the land, the earth, is still controlled by many evil and wicked individuals. Let's remember the prophecy in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. Daniel delivered God's message to King Nebuchadnezzar in explanation of his dream about the statue and the stone that crushed it. He says, "In the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these other kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." Jesus began his kingdom, but it is not yet fully realized or fully revealed in power. It is promised to us. Jesus is that king. Jesus is that only begotten Son of God. Jesus set up his kingdom. Where is his kingdom? As I've said before, his kingdom is where he lives in a human heart. His kingdom is where someone hears and obeys his word, where the will of God Most High is done on earth as it is in heaven. There is the kingdom of heaven. There you find the kingdom of God. And Jesus gives that kingdom to the poor in spirit as he promised, and also as he promises, the meek shall inherit the earth. Looking ahead, next week, Lord willing, we will revisit the Sermon on the Mount, and we will be looking at the Beatitude, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Until then, this Beatitude, this blessing, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. So shall they put my name, Yahweh, on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. That's in Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 through 27.